The MenScape
The
podcast.
MenScape
Carl.J.
podcast with Carl.J.
Podcast.
Ashley.
Ashley.
So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the June 2024 edition of the MenScape podcast with the one and only Mr. Jonathan Robinson, and in association with AncientSpiritualTours.com. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, never better. Happy to be on. How are you?
Thanks for joining us. Why won't you tell us a little bit about who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name's Jonathan, born and raised in Grosse Ile, Michigan, and I'm a hypnotherapist. I do past life regression, hypnotherapy, breathwork, Reiki, and helping people on their spiritual journey.
I like that, very succinct and a good message. So past life regression is something I was always interested in from, I'd say, being a lot younger. But how on earth do you get into that?
Wow, you're lucky. I didn't learn about it till I was 29. So I'm 35 now, and yeah, I always wondered the big picture questions in life. Where do we
Right,
come from? What's our purpose? How do we get here? What happens after we die, right? How come we're all gonna go through that experience, but no one seems to know a concrete answer. So I started looking into it, went on a spiritual path, started meditating, quit my job a month later, and did a lot of things on my bucket list, just like things, just trying different, learning instruments, learning things, trying to find what I'm good at, I'm talented, but what is my purpose and what do I want to help people with? Because any job that you do, you're just helping other people. So you're a plumber, you're helping them with plumbing, teacher, you're helping them learning. So what are you good at helping people and communicating people at? So I work for a holistic healing company called Heal.me. I got to talk to thousands of holistic healers from all different modalities, the most wonderful people on the planet. And I really vibed with the hypnotherapists and the Reiki practitioners. I came across Michael Newton's work with Journey of Souls, read his books, read a lot of Dolores Cannon's books, Brian Weiss's books on past life regression.
hmm
I found profound evidence the way they correlate with near-death experiences, psychic mediums, plant medicine, spiritual books and gurus, and they all correlate. And there's thousands and thousands of people that undergo this experience that don't know each other, that are from all different walks of life, and they all give similar answers during in the sessions of what happens in the spirit world. So kind of led me on my path of one, self-discovery, and also helping get this information out to the world and helping people on their personal journeys as well.
Yeah, I guess my interest in the whole thing stemmed from my interest in Buddhist philosophy and the Buddhist teachings and the Buddhist scriptures. But when I joined a Buddhist center after moving to Ireland, about 20 odd years ago, um, if if we did say like a teachings of the Buddha class, and I sort of brought it up and said, I had a question about reincarnation, it would mostly get skipped over or skipped past, and they would say, "Oh, don't worry about that. Just be a nice person. Just focus on loving kindness, metta, and being, sowing some good seeds." And so they were about the cultivation of sort of right speech, right behavior, being a good person. And at the end of the day, if you meditate, you can reflect on your good deeds and feel good about yourself. but I still had these burning questions that were unanswered, right? So it's like, okay, who am I? What am I? What am I doing here? And I remember quite vividly knocking on my dad's door when I was a kid and asking him these questions. And I couldn't get to sleep at night. And so it was like his answer ultimately was, I don't know, son. So I'm like, I don't know, 7. And I'm like, right, so you're here and you don't know what you're doing here, and you brought me here, and now I don't know what I'm doing here. And he's like, yeah, that's about right. So yeah, that's
Man,
and I'm
you're
like,
a
what the fuck is this? Come on, So I always had this this unquenchable thirst for knowledge and information, and my I turned 50 last year. My path has led me now to um, a lot of interest in things like past life regression, whilst focusing on this life healing and looking at your shit in this lifetime, can be no greater purpose, because you're doing the work not just on yourself but on your children and your ancestors as well. So I've been involved in a lot of different healing modalities. One lady I met that blew my mind a few years ago told me that in a past life I was a scribe of Thoth. So in ancient Egypt, I would have been the person that people came to for information about healing and
hmm.
information about systems of healing and information pertaining to what advice they could get. So it'd be like I was maybe a glorified librarian, just pointing them to the right book about the right modality of healing. But this sounded grand. And last year I had the chance to go to ancient Egypt and ended up at the Temple of Karnak and the Holy of Holies. And boy, I did. I felt at home there. I felt at home and stuff came up. So I am looking forward to doing some future sessions with you anyway, and learning more and discovering more about my own past life regressions and stuff. Um, did you have any experience or any awareness around your own past lives? Like we all kind of were a priestess in Atlantis, right?
Yeah, and that's well, there's a lot of stuff in that. A lot of times the highlights are, oh, I was a king or queen or princess in my past lives, and that's a highlights. But in reality, we've all had a lot of mundane lives and lives that kind of mimic our current situation. So that's a really good point you brought up of you being maybe a scribe or someone involved with writing and in the library in a past life. I see a lot of patterns, cycles that healers were healers in past lives, people with a relationship things are still having those relationship things happen, and that's multifaceted human, consciousness. But I see a lot of patterns, and a lot of those patterns are repeating. So if people have been, like you mentioned, you're a writer in a past life, and that still resonates with you, the essence of your soul that's important to that. So kind of like a magnet, we're guided by our higher self to pursue truth, writing, and whatever for you, that was kind of your
Yeah, I've
your
always
path
been
that led you.
obsessed with that pursuit of truth, but that I learned that not everybody was like that as well. So what came up for you? What sort of recurring past lives predominated in your own experience?
Wow. Well, I've had a lot of past life sessions done on me, and I've done a lot of for other people as well. So in I get benefit each way, but I do self-hypnosis almost every day. So I've done past life regression, and I'll just tell you what happened the first time because it's interesting, and this happens to some people as well. And I thought I was making it up. So the first time I did past life regression, I thought I was making it up, and I didn't know what to do. And the scenes were just like unfolding on me. And I said, I don't know if I'm making this up. I'm not sure. So the practitioner said, okay, well, let's try again next week. And never ended up happening. But I did a session with my current mentor or hypnosis instructor, and I went into the same past life as I did 3 years ago. And what happens is we think we're using our creative imagination to create these scenes because we're seeing our past lives in a prolonged theta frequency, and that's the frequency of hypnosis, deep meditation, and dreaming would be a little bit deeper. So we're seeing these images like a daydream come to us, and we're not making it up. It's just happening, and that's how the universe shows us sign symbols and kind of speaks to us in the universal language.
So I reckon you could be destined for a career in politics because that's twice you avoided answering the question.
Yeah, my past lives are
What came up for
personal.
you?
They're
Yeah.
they are personal to me, and I don't want to lead anyone by kind of saying what I've been and what I've done. But in my so there's a lot of different reasons to do this and a lot of different lessons. One of the biggest things I learned about my past life experience
Yeah.
is the situation and relationship to my sister. So currently I'm the older brother, she's the younger sister.
Yeah.
In a past life, I was the younger sister, she was the older brother.
Yeah.
She would get, and I think it was in a society like India where the men, got the jobs and they were listened to, and the women kind of were didn't have like a role in politics and stuff like that. So
Some Indian women might say it hasn't changed much, but of course it may have in some areas. Yeah.
yeah, so I felt reversed. So in that life, she was always getting the credit, parents loved her, everything like that. And in this life, it's a similar situation, but opposite. So I'm the older sibling. Lots of things good are happening to me, but lots of things are happening for her too. But we kind of bicker a little bit, and we don't know why. We love each other. We spend a lot of time with each other, but sometimes we'll just get at each other, and that's, I think, from past life arguments and stuff.
So a few times I might have met and spoken to somebody, and the idea comes up of soul groups and soul contracts. Would it be the case that yourself and your sister maybe came in? I believe me and my father were connected in the past life. I believe me and my current partner were connected in the past life. And I believe from some of the books I've read and things I've seen that there's pretty strong evidence that we're in a simulation. So, as in a Matrix or like in Star Trek, the holodeck, where you go in, create whatever, and the computer creates it and it feels real, it looks real, but when it's over, you just go back to something or somewhere. If so, what's the point? Is life just like a glorious school and we're here to learn? If so, what's the point? Where does that end?
Well, that's yeah, that's a new theory. That's a new thing or a complex idea that we don't have a lot of language and metaphysical terms to describe it. So a simulation or a game is like a really simple version of what yeah, we could be playing, but that I hope to not take away any spiritual love and intentional benefits from just calling it a game because this is has real life implications, but everything matters, everything doesn't matter. It's life is simple or complex as we want it to
That
be.
sounds like a good title for a book. Everything matters and yet nothing matters.
But yeah, so we're we're here to learn lessons, we're here to help others, and we're here to celebrate, right? So it's to simplify it, we're here to progress and evolve as a soul in these multiple incarnations. Helping others, being in service to others teaches us a lot about ourselves and elevates everyone. And then celebrate. So being in the moment, being happy, um, being kind, and enjoying ourselves, being grateful. So, but yeah, it's kind of like Earth school. Earth is a very challenging place because we incarnate with amnesia. We can't remember anything. We're just in this game, in this maze without an overhead view. So when we do past life regression or can connect with our higher self more, imagine the higher self is like a character that's playing you, but it can give you guidance on where to go and lead you and give you signs and symbols on what to do next if you're on the right path and things like that.
Yeah. So the me of maybe 10 years ago, sort of locked fully into full catastrophe living with 4 kids, 3 dogs, a wife, a mortgage, and semi-detached estate life, and struggling desperately within that. suffering from addictions, depression, anxiety, constant debt, fear of, mortgage repayments and all this stuff. Um, and presumably a million lifetimes away from me now, 10 years later, um, without the things I needed to cope back then, like the drinking, the smoking, and the gambling. It's like a haze has lifted. And all of a sudden, I feel much more connected to a deeper aspect of myself, or this higher self that you might describe it as, where my current sort of my body, my physical being is like much more of a home for my old soul, or the versions of me that have been before. And I know time's not linear in the sense that we could be having all these past lives simultaneously, but in this lifetime we have a past and a future and a present and stuff, and that's how we understand time, which isn't necessarily the case in the dimension outside of this. But this idea that we're actually on some kind of soul evolution, and that we're progressing through towards some ultimate perfection, is something I've come across in like the mystery school teachings as well. And there seems to be some credence in that, and sort of famous people in the past like Rene Descartes, Francis Bacon, famous philosophers and scientists and what have you would have subscribed to the mystery school teachings, which all seem to connect back into ancient Egypt. And a lot of people that I speak to about their past lives, there seems to be always a connection back to ancient Egypt. Have you
Yeah,
noticed a theme like that with your clients and your people that you're doing the work on?
I have. Yeah, I have lots of past life sessions going to Egypt, actually, a lot of them.
Right. So
Greg,
why is Egypt so significant? What's all that about?
well, Egypt was there after Atlantis fell. So Atlantis fell, and they took the technology, and some of the people came to Egypt, and that was the main hub, like the Rome, the New York City, the LA of the time. So Egypt was massive. It was huge. Lot of different, long time there. And actually, it used to be a rainforest, so the prevailing winds changed, and it wasn't dry like it and arid like it is. So it used to be nicer weather thousands and thousands of years ago. But yeah, Greg Braden, Graham Hancock from Gaia and lectures, they talk about Lemuria, Atlantis, Great Flood, Ice Age, things like that. It's all in all different religion. It's all different parts of the world all have the same stories. But Egypt is so important because there's so much technology that got brought over from Atlantis that got there. Massive. I mean, I have a lot of stories. I don't know if you want me to go into one or.
Be
uh,
rude not to whilst we have you.
Yeah, I had a person, she was a high up priestess for the emperor, and she would bring technology and crystals over from Atlantis, and she would harness the energy with Reiki or energy healing, putting energy into the crystals, wrapping the crystal in a leaf or something living, and then giving that crystal to the person or the priest or whoever needed the work. So they were able to do that. And I've had lots of energy healing stories as well. So that's just one. I've had empresses or princesses in Egypt, and I've had a lot of different stories in Egypt.
I suppose it's inconceivable, really. Um, as I said, we were there last November, and they're talking about dynasties, and you're talking about maybe kind of like 8,000 BC, and there might be a dynasty lasting 3,000 years, and that's what 60 or 70 generations, maybe more. I don't know, but it's inconceivable to us that even that short space of time, in the scheme of things, involves so many generations. And so it's probably the case that we've all had numerous past lives in ancient Egypt, if there was dynasties going on for 8,000 years there.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Um,
makes sense.
you mentioned Lemuria. That was apparently an ancient civilization in what's today the Pacific Basin. So everything from Hawaii and Polynesia and Tahiti to um, the west coast of America and whatever was there. Obviously, the landscape of things has shifted since. So, no doubt the connection is there with Atlantis and ancient Egypt. And then obviously a lot of the Greeks went to study in Egypt, likes of Pythagoras, and Plato actually described Atlantis in one of his books. So again, we'd like to think we were a priestess or a king or a queen, but we could have just been a cleaner, you know.
Yeah,
Nobody
lots.
talks about having a past life as a cleaner or a slave, but my partner says we've all been rapists and murderers, and we've all done good things and we've all done bad things, and we've all, been through all these many different things. But
Yeah.
is there any proof of that? Does your sessions with people constitute proof as far as you're concerned?
Um, there is a lot of proof. Children's past lives. Jim Tucker out of the University of Virginia has two books on children's past lives, and with the kids, well, with us, with what I do too, you could probably do this, but with him, he can ask the kids 100 questions on who were you in a past life. They can find the address of the house, find if they were in the army, find the platoon, the badges, what they look like. The parents can t describe the favorite saying of that
I'm with
person,
you,
and it's
yeah.
the same favorite saying as the kid said it was. Um,
So,
there's a really famous story in Ireland. I think we talked about this, but a kid was in the market one day. He looked at a man and he said, "You're the one that killed me." His face got white as a ghost. They thought that's kind of weird, so the parents went to the farmer's house. They dug in the backyard. They found a skull impaled with a shovel. They buried this person in the backyard. So it's kind of like a time traveling detective. They found, the kid. Imagine that. Wild.
So individual cases, you could maybe discredit and put it down to a wild imagination in the hypnosis. But if it's happening over and over again, there's a huge body of evidence then being substantiated through examples like that. It's a bit difficult to discredit when there's so many cases and so many examples. Yeah.
Perfectly well, concisely said. One person having a psychedelic trip or one person having a session is not enough evidence for me as well. But thousands of people from all different walks of life giving the similar answers of what happens is pretty profound, unless they're all making that up. So,
Right. So I'm gonna digress into some other kind of questions. Have you ever jumped out of a plane?
nope,
Ever ridden a horse?
yep,
Ever ridden a Ferrari?
nope,
Have you ever cheated death?
I don't think so.
I reckon you have. Everybody's cheated death one way or another. Have you ever eaten an insect?
Probably
Have you ever had children?
not in this life.
Have you ever walked on hot coals?
Nope, walked on ice.
Have you ever done any public speaking?
I do some public speaking now. Yep.
And have you ever been abducted by aliens?
I haven't. A lot of my clients have.
All right,
So
interesting.
I
Yeah.
do. That's a good point, actually. So with hypnosis, I've helped someone find a shoebox of $2,000 in their garage that they forgot about 5 years ago. We were able to regress them back to the when they hit it
That's a
and
great
find the
story.
box. A lot of times, alien abductions, especially close encounters, the memory is wiped. And so, but with hypnosis, we can go back to that moment because everything's recorded and we can experience what happened as an observer. And if it's beneficial to them, they'll gain more insight.
Yeah, I remember reading somewhere that the subconscious performs a function of remembering absolutely everything. And so when we die, we have the opportunity to be shown or to review our lives and see exactly like on a movie screen, I guess, a reel being played back to us of everything we've said and done. Um,
Yeah.
if you are struggling to find something or to remember something, it was said that you can go to bed at night and use your conscious mind to instruct your subconscious mind to give you some clue or indication as to wherever it is that you're looking for. And by the following day, you'll have the answer because the subconscious is like a slave to the master, which is the conscious mind. So it's there to serve us. But a lot of us, we don't learn about the power of the subconscious from either school or our parents or wherever. So it's almost like we have to learn this stuff for ourselves and come across it ourselves. But a lot of us are motivated by subconscious behavior patterns that we can only really regulate or adapt once we bring them into conscious awareness. So my partner's done a bit of hypnotherapy training as well and helps people that are struggling with blocks and things like that. And it's fascinating how it all links back to some incident or event in childhood where we learned, for example, we were taught to talk and walk, and then we were told to sit down and shut up. So as adults, we might not speak our truth or speak up, or we might be afraid to have our voice heard. And it literally was down to some event that happened when we were like 5 years old or something. And once you bring up that memory, you can adapt and change and deal with that. But it would tend to be sort of leading us towards this idea that we've all got two suitcases full of baggage, not only from this life childhood, but then from past life stuff as well, that if we don't deal with it and work on it, we're going to be almost controlled by, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Our trauma, we don't want our trauma to run our life, right? We want to, and I talk to therapists, hypnotherapists, 90% of them say 90, or almost all of them say 90% of people do walk around with childhood trauma. And the reason is because children operate in theta frequency until age 8 or 9. So they're
Hmm.
absorbing everything like a sponge, and they can learn multiple languages. And they're actually like you were having all those questions as a kid. Kids can meditate, they can do a lot of with their mind, but they're told by the society and their parents to not do that and shut that down. And if you tell a kid you're not good enough, there's no shield. So they absorb that and they walk around with that until their adulthood, and they stems back to them in hypnotherapy session that I've been doing this my whole life because of this one incident. So the subconscious is trying to protect us. It's trying to help us, but it doesn't know that it doesn't need to protect us from that anymore. So it walks around in our body like emotion. And with hypnotherapy or talk therapy or meditation, whatever your modality is, Reiki
Hmm.
for alleviating that, releasing that emotion, that trauma from the body is what we're trying to do to free ourselves up so we can live more in the moment and be grateful.
That's a beautiful explanation. Thank you. Yeah.
As far as past lives go, I there's a million reasons to do a past life regression. But I believe about only 10% of our current life troubles for the average person, only about 10% of our current life issues stem from past lives. So it could be less, it could be more, depending on the person. But birthmarks, fears, phobias, um, weird feelings about different items. Those almost always stem from past lives.
What was the last one?
Like being afraid. Sorry, I should have just said phobias. So
Oh, phobias. Okay, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. As a kid and even still as an adult in certain occasions, I'd have a fear of spiders, right? But as a man, I'm quite quiet, I'm quite hardworking, I'm quite industrious, and I like to hang out in corners. So maybe I used to be a spider.
and spider dreaming about a spider typically means there's a tumultuous relationship with a female or male, depending on if you're female or male. So there's a tumultuous relationship issue going on.
Right, and I heard that if you were a woman in a past life, you're a man in this life, and vice versa. So it's almost like we're switching roles as well.
Yeah, yeah, we switch roles, male, female. If you're male a bunch of lives in a row and you switch to female, you might not be used to it right away, but you'll get used to it, and you chose that to learn those lessons and to switch places with your spirit group. So your soulmate, could be male this life and you could be female, and in a past life, maybe the roles were reversed. So,
Hmm.
or maybe one life they were the parent and you were the child. So, we switch places to learn different lessons.
So where, and you don't have to answer this question by the way, because there could be a trigger alert there, but where on earth does the transhumanist agenda fit in there and the modern plethora of people that are claiming to be neither male nor female and sort of gender ambiguity has all of a sudden become like a fashionable thing?
Yeah, and I didn't really want to get into that right yet. I might include that in my book, but you know, all my past life regressions, I ask, are you male or female? And it's
Yeah,
and it's one or the other.
yeah.
If they're a spirit being, they're an energy being with masculine energy and feminine energy. So we, as a formless spiritual being, we have feminine and masculine energy that we bring into our current incarnation. So
And
we can
this
be a
is an
man with
important
more
point.
feminine energy and a ma female with more masculine energy as well. But your higher self has chosen the framework of your life, the challenges that you'll face, and your gender for probably a really good reason. So, and also, if we live multiple lives and say you want to experiment with being a different gender, just wait till next life, or maybe you were last life, so um,
I read somewhere that if you go back a long, long way now, so say if if you talk of ancient civilizations, Younger Dryas, Göbekli Tepe, 13,000 BC, let's say you're going back way before that, maybe hundreds of thousands of years ago. I read somewhere that we could have existed as kind of androgynous beings that were both male and female, or neither male nor female, and then splitting the genders kind of came along. So being a male or a female then was a thing afterwards. And that, I don't know, is there beings then, say, like Arcturians or Pleiadians or beings in other dimensions or in other star systems, and they're neither male nor female. So it throws up a lot of potential debates and discussions, but yeah,
yeah,
interesting stuff.
yeah, and um, when we're formless, we just have the energy, the masculine energy, the feminine energy. If I've had someone who did like 5 lives in a row as a man, then they incarnated as a woman, and they were thrown off a little bit. They didn't feel like themselves. So that can happen. But we do this to learn lessons. So you're probably learning to be a male or female in this life for those lessons that you've chosen to learn. So the 26-year cycle, 26,000 year cycle. Have you heard of the
The Mayans, is it?
Yeah, the Mayan cycle. So there's a 26,000 year cycle, and we're going into Aquarius right now, the golden age. And so we just came from the dark ages, so things were more heavy and dense. But before that, in the part of the cycle, we were more energy beings. Like right now, we're like 90% physical, 10% energy, or something like that. Before, we were 90% translucent energy and only 10% physical. So sound healing, light healing, Reiki, and these other modalities were so powerful on us because we only had a little bit of physical body. Now they say we're vibrating at a higher frequency and going back into that cycle.
Ooh. Yeah, one of my clients is an amazing lady, also based in the States. Shout out to Sarah if she's watching. She talks about the Chiron return and the effects of the planets, and she's very passionate about the astrology and stuff. And it hasn't escaped my attention that we're all, depending on the sort of time and place and location of our birth, it's like we're given certain coordinates, but throughout your life, you obviously have the opportunity to change certain aspects of your life. But you're almost like given a blueprint based on, your rising sign, your star, your ascendant, your descendant, your house of this and your house of that. And it's almost like you can pinpoint and narrow things down so much. Again, it comes back to this idea that we're in a matrix or a simulation, you know?
Yeah, and one of the biggest reasons I just watched the Joe Rogan podcast about one of the guys, and in the simulation, the computer just generates what you see, and that's kind of the observer effect in quantum physics. So the we don't measure it until we look at it, right? In quantum physics. So there is some observer effect. That's a phenomenon in quantum physics, and in regressions and everything that we do, everything's recorded with our subconscious mind. And we can access the Akashic records for that, or we can access our own subconscious mind, our higher self, for those answers. And that's why people come to me. They have these deep questions about life or their purpose or fulfillment, or why did this happen to me? Why am I the way I am? And from doing a past life regression, a lot of times we can, a lot of times they don't even have to answer or ask their questions. They're actually answered throughout the hour-long session that we do.
Cool. Wasn't Terence Higgins by any chance, was it?
Yeah, I think, was it Lawrence or Terrence?
I've been watching some stuff of his lately. It was remarkable. Yeah, quite
Yeah, it was
intense. Yeah.
one of the recent ones that was on. I don't think it was Lawrence,
What's
but
interesting though is we've been lied to about virtually everything. And once you start to cast a skeptical eye and a critical eye on all the information that we've been fed, it doesn't take that much time to learn or realize that you can apply that to virtually everything. And one of the guys that's been a guest on the MenScape podcast a couple of times, shout out to Richard if he's watching. He reckons it's as much as 95% of the stuff that we've been taught is not true. So who knows what to believe, but we can know what we feel, right? We know when we feel angry or upset. So it's almost like we can channel truth through how things make us feel. And coming back to energy, when you're talking about masculine and feminine energy, bringing the two into some kind of balance would seem to be a good idea in our personal lives, in our relationship with ourselves, and then that being mirrored in our relationships with others, right?
yeah, absolutely. And what was your prior question? I was about to, I think, respond to that.
We'll move on to another question. Let me find another. What's your favorite smell?
Mm, lavender.
Oh, very good. I like that as well. We mentioned books a couple of times. What are your favorite books and what books would you recommend and why?
So on my website, I have a John's little library. I have a bunch of books I recommend, spiritual books and past life books, two categories. I've read probably 50 or more books on past life regression. In my library, I have hundreds of books, but Journey of Souls for past life regression, Life in Between Lives by Michael Newton as
Okay.
well. And then Autobiography of a Yogi for all around spiritual book. It's a long book, but it's the only book Steve Jobs had. He's the one, he gave it to everyone at his funeral, and it has a lot of really interesting stories in it.
So, Autobiography of a Yogi
Yeah. By
and Journey of
Yogananda,
Souls.
he came here in the 1900s to teach the West about meditation. So his life path was just amazing.
And I believe you might be writing a book yourself.
I am.
Yeah,
So it'll incorporate past lives and lessons that we learned from it. And I guess it'll be all around a spiritual book on actual case studies of what happens during these sessions. And hopefully I'm doing this to help bring this information to the world. So help open people's minds.
fantastic. Yeah. So, any favorite movies or favorite songs?
I like King Arthur. Right now, I like the King Arthur for I think 2014 it came out. It's pretty has some spiritual stuff in there with
Yeah.
Excalibur's sword. Um, and yeah, I like Odessa a lot and Closey right now. So I'm into the um, music festival. I go to festivals and perform at festivals sometimes, and
Okay.
not music, but I do hypnosis or mentalism or something, and um, I really enjoy that atmosphere, that crowd. In a lot of my past life sessions, I say go to a memorable day or go to a exciting day. And a lot of times they go to a wedding or a festival or a like event that's just everyone in the town is just having fun. And I think we need to celebrate more and do that more often than just once a year.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it must be important if it's constantly coming up in my sessions that, hey, this was a happy day. I made connections. I met a girl. I met a guy. I met, my friends, and I just enjoyed myself for once. And I think we need to do that more often as a society and get into that love state more often.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't really go to that much festivals when I was younger, but if I did, I made sure I was getting pissed or I was getting stoned or, generally not being with it and getting out of it. And then last year we went to one in a beautiful location in Glendalough in Wicklow called Beyond the Pale. And it was my first time ever going to a festival and being at a festival and just being able to be myself without the need to get shit-faced, without the need to get inebriated. And what I noticed and realized whilst I was wandering around with my cup of peppermint tea and my little bit of dark chocolate, which is about as hardcore as it gets for me these days, was that it didn't impinge upon me enjoying myself at all. In fact, I enjoyed myself more because I was much more present with being there and experiencing what it was. Um, yeah, there was
Yeah.
an occasion going back a few years when I was living in Limerick. And I had this dream, and it was so vivid. It was, it occurred to me it was a past life. And I was at a festival. And so it could have been in the 60s or the 70s or something like that. And I was kind of in a queue or in a line. And I was enjoying myself. The sun was shining. I was surrounded by girls. I was having fun. And there was a kind of a murmur or a commotion behind me. And people were going, oh, drawing in their breath and saying shush and stuff. And then the next thing, this guy appeared just before me, and he pulled out a knife, pressed a button on it, and stabbed me in the neck all in one quick motion, very quickly. And so all of a sudden, I went from being on a sunny day, having a great time and enjoying myself, and I woke up in the bed like panting and sweating and literally holding my neck, which had been covered in blood from the impact of being stabbed in the neck. And I started wearing a hoodie. And ever since I haven't stopped. I've been just permanently wear a hoodie for the last few years. I don't know if it's in some way to protect my neck, but it was so real and so vivid.
Yeah.
And I saw the face of the guy that done it, my would-be murderer. Um, it was actually a guy that went to the same secondary school as me. He wasn't in my class, but he was in my year. So I knew of him. I played football with his brother and I knew who he was. And so 25 years after school, there I am having this dream. It's so vivid. It was so remarkable. And there's no getting away from those kind of memories that are so etched on you. But
Yeah.
I don't know, the past life memories come in through dreams as well.
They do a lot of times, especially children's past lives, they'll dream of them. But you'll know because it's not in a normal dream. You'll know the higher self knows what to do and to send you a message. Clearly, it's a reoccurring dream or it's a dream that's really memorable and you felt like you were there. And we can go into not only alien abductions, but into dreams during our past life sessions as well. Just
Right.
so everyone knows, we can go back to that moment to gain more insight and lessons from it.
Yeah, yeah. I've always had quite mad, weird, vivid dreams and been made aware that these were past lives. I I went to bed one night reading this book that was talking about how you never see your own body in a dream, and that you can train yourself to look at your hand before you fall asleep doing a specific meditation or what have you. And in that dream, I was in a kind of a hippie commune in the 60s in London, somewhere like that. It was like a big barn. It was all kind of like free love was the vibe. There was lots of people making out, sort of couples and singles and stuff. And I walked past this mirror and I looked at myself in the mirror and I didn't see Carl.J. Ashley in this lifetime. I was like I had long blonde hair. I was either a chick or a guy, with long blonde hair. And I was shocked. And I woke up and I thought I reflected on this. And it was like, well, yeah, of course, I'm not going to be who I am in this life in a past life. Um, but the memories, I don't know, do they indicate that that was me, or I could have just been there, as in present in at that time? But it was quite powerful. It was like we didn't have any money, but we didn't need any either. Everything that people needed, they had through community and that communitarian kind of vibe. And there was an open and a free attitude towards love, and it was like, okay, I might be wearing a suit in this life, but I'm still a hippie at heart, right? Not worn a
Yeah.
suit for years actually, but do business and work in business and business networking and stuff.
But that story is a perfect example of what our subconscious does because our subconscious isn't rational and we have a logical mind or rational mind, but our subconscious, had you wear a hoodie to protect your neck for years, like, because so the subconscious does stuff like that. So if we drown in a past lives, maybe we won't want to have
Right.
anything around our neck or
Yeah.
be near water for uh, trauma can happen from fire. People can be afraid of that, heights. So,
We
yeah,
all went
that
out for a meal there a few years ago. I went back over to Manchester in England, where I'm from, and we went out and we had a kind of family get together. And I said to everyone, what was your kind of recurring dream when you was a kid, like a nightmare? And every single person had one.
really.
And every single person, you could see the lesson in that recurring dream as a child. So my mum was always afraid of water, for example, and in this life she wouldn't swim or she wouldn't get in the water. But like you say, it probably indicates having been drowned in a past life or a previous life.
Yeah, and it doesn't always transfer over like that. Doesn't mean it's a concrete answer, but it could be. But I will speak on dreams for a minute. My so dreams are amazing. I have taken several classes on dream interpretation, and I help people interpret their dreams. Best book I read was Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming and Pillow letters and lucid dreaming. So pillow letters are letters that you write yourself in
Yeah.
your handwriting, your intentions of answers that you want to be answered before you dream. So start off, hey, dear dreams, I would like to know this and this and this. Thank you, love you so much, your name. Put it under your pillow. Crystallizing it with writing will help your subconscious find those answers for you. Lucid dreaming. So in this book, and there's a lot of different techniques, but there's a point in your dream where you can become aware and become lucid. And in for a lot of people, it's like when we yell in our dream and you know how in your dream you can't talk. So like you try to yell for help and you realize you're dreaming, then you wake up. Well, we can do things like look at a watch, and in a dream, the watch face won't show any time. If we knock on a wall, in the dream, our hand will go through the wall. And so we do this every hour or every time we walk in a room, and it trains our body to make it a habit. And then in the dream, we do that and we go, whoa, my hand just went through the wall. That's weird. I'm dreaming. And then you can fly, you can do all these,
Interesting.
all of your fantasies you can do in your dreams. But it's also good to lucid dream for real life as well. So if you want to be a performer or speaker, you could, in your dream, act like you're performing and the crowd's cheering and they love you. So you can practice rock climbing. You can practice that sport that you want to do. You can practice that starting that business that you want to start. So there's a lot of benefits to it too.
That sounds fascinating. And you reminded me of a recurring dream I had when I was a kid, where I was falling off a cliff or I was falling down a long, long, long way. And no matter what happened, I'd always wake up before I hit the bottom, like it was cheating death kind of a thing, you know. Um, there was another dream I had as a kid where uh, I would scoop my hand under the bed, and under the bed there would be loads of gold and treasure. And it was like when I woke up then the next day, I felt cheated because none of it was there, of course, because it was only in the fucking dream that all the gold and treasure was there. Or maybe in a past life I slept on a lot of gold and treasure, you know.
Well,
Who knows?
in my past life, I buried some treasure for me in my current life, and I'm gonna find it this life.
Ah, that's cool. Maybe the buried treasure lies within you.
There, that now that's wise.
This
I
is
like
it.
I like that a lot more
Yeah,
actually.
what I've learned is the the lessons of life, the pain and suffering that we go through. For example, in my case, I've been through parental alienation in the last few years, and nothing can ever prepare you for the cruel business that is parental alienation. When you kiss your children on the forehead and put them to sleep as babies, you don't imagine that in 15, 20 years' time, they might be a teenager or a young adult that doesn't want anything to do with you. But if you start to take that personally, you're going to get hurt and upset and angry and annoyed. But if you can take something like that and literally transmute that pain and suffering into alchemizing that into, say, for example, being of service to others by helping them with parental alienation coaching, helping adults that are going through something similar navigate a path through it, then you're literally alchemizing, but it's all within you. It's not something that came from outside of you. Obviously, we can all be seduced by either a beautiful woman or riches or gold and what have you. But the real treasure lies within us. And it's not just you and it's not just me, it's everybody. You are divine will manifest in the body of a man or a woman, and you have powers of manifestation. And if only you realized how powerful you actually were, you wouldn't bother looking outside of yourself so much. The real treasure lies within us. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And there's all these life hacks and biohacks, but there's mind hacks too now, and we call that hypnosis. Every day, the news and media, and you talked a little bit about our diet, and our diet is not just what we eat, it's the music we listen to, the friends we hang out with. Are your friends lifting you up, or are they kind of negative? So choosing friends, you are the average of the five people you hang out with the most. So if you want to start that business, getting networking with people that are already there or on that path is the fastest way that we can level up. So reach out to those people, message them. A lot of people love helping people, but no one messages them. So when I started this journey, I have a strong network of many spiritual people and hypnotists that I stay in contact with, and good friends. So our diet is who we hang out with, what we listen to, the books we read, and what we put in our mind. So just like we can set intentions before dreaming, we can, if I want more confidence, I can do a self-hypnosis for confidence, or to alleviate that trauma, or to, just be more in abundance. So there's things we can do that are very powerful.
Thank you. Yeah. So before we end up with a 1 minute quick fire round, I have a couple more questions for you. What is your best trip abroad and why? What was your best holiday or overseas experience and why?
Yeah, I've been to Hawaii. Um, we go to Daytona Beach. I've been to Mount Shasta. I think I'm gonna go with Mount Shasta. I've been there twice. Man, that energy there is like, we talked about it, I think, because you went on your trip and I went on
It's on
my
my
trip.
bucket list, yeah.
Yeah, you went to the pyramids and I went to in that. If you can't feel the energy there, you're doing something wrong. It's very grounding.
A lot of
Yeah.
people have had UFO experiences there, and that leads me into another question, which was, did you ever have a kind of a glitch in the Matrix story? Did anything ever happen to you that led you to believe that not everything is as it seems?
I've been pretty aware of UFOs and the phenomenons. I've seen a few of them in person, and they correlate with other UFO videos that I've seen. The way the light spiraled and it flickered and it went was just very unusual. It happened over water, and it happened at a time of excitement, like a parade or so I've seen that kind of thing. Ancient Aliens has always kind of opened my mind to that as well. I do want to make one thing a point as because I did make the alien abduction story. So
Yeah.
from what I've experienced, most aliens, most extra dimensionals, I'll call them extraterrestrials or extra dimensionals are friendly, meaning they're here to help us. Sometimes we are star seeds from Arcturian, Pleiadian, and Sirian planets, and our higher self or our other form is living a parallel life that's actually monitoring our current incarnation.
So
And
the humans
sometimes
like the Avatar.
we kind of um but it's hard to conceptualize that with our human mind. But with our super conscious mind we can. And so sometimes I've had multiple times this has happened, but it was just their own kind checking on themselves to monitor their progress and how their Earth incarnation's doing. So it's usually a good
Mm.
thing. Not to say, there's 1% of people are net, 1% of politicians are bad. Well, maybe more than that. 1% of people in sales, the shady car sales guy. So maybe there's a small percentage of nefarious extra dimensionals, but most of them are good.
Mm. Okay. Um, got a favorite crystal?
Yeah, I like the Australian black opal.
White Australian black opal, sir.
Well, it is a very translucent crystal that just the colors in it are just fascinating. I don't know if we can put one up on the screen for when the podcast airs, but
Maybe we
it's
can.
one of my very, very favorites.
Australian black opal. That sounds pretty cool. I had a black onyx ring.
Yeah, I have an opalite, uh, but the Australian black opal is just filled with color and energy, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do, 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 do. It's looking pretty wild, Jonathan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Scroll down or go to images.
Do, 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 do.
Look at that.
Wow. You've just taught me about a new crystal.
Oh,
Excellent.
they're worth, I think they're valued as much as a diamond, like
Yeah.
$5,000 for a very very, very small one.
Australian black opal. Doesn't look very black, does it?
No?
No. Interesting. Yeah, fascinating. Yeah. I don't know when it actually happened, but a few years ago, I just started collecting crystals and they're like my babies. They're like my plants. I mind them. I talk to them. Might have one that I when I go to sleep, I have it in my hand. And the awareness that, well, the earth is made of a lot of minerals and our bodies are made of a lot of minerals and compounds. It's fascinating the role that crystals play in our lives. Did you ever see um, the stuff that I got a book a few years ago on crystal skulls, right? There was about nine of them that were owned by people, and the original ones had no markings, no evidence that they were made. They were purely formed out of crystal, And if you were in the presence of one, thoughts and ideas would come into your head. You'd literally be channeling voices in the presence of just being having a crystal skull in the same room. I forget the author of the book, but did you ever
Yeah.
come across the crystal skulls?
I'd love to read a book like that. If you can provide it, um, it reminds me of this story I had of past life regression. This person was in Aztec or somewhere in the south, somewhere in Mexico, and an they put a they put a what is it called? They put something object. They put an object apparatus on. They put an apparatus on a pyramid, and from the energy of the pyramid and the apparatus and the crystals that were in it, basically a whole electromagnetic field of good vibes, good energy, healing energy would just spread around the entire community, the forest, the animals could feel it, and everyone could feel really good.
The Mystery of the Crystal Skulls by Chris Morton, I think was the book I read a few years ago, and there was definitely an overlap with the Aztec, the Inca, the Mixtec, the Olmec, the ancient civilizations of what's today now Central America, sort of Guatemala, Honduras, and into Mexico. Yeah.
Oh, so maybe the apparatus on top of the pyramid was something similar? Because, when we raise our consciousness as per people, if we meditate or if we're just in a loving state, we can't see that with our eyes, but that magnetic field is vibrates like 10 meters from our heart center. So people will feel better around you if you're in a good mood. I'm sure you've experienced something like that when you walk in a room, you change the vibe of the room, or in that negative way, if you walk in a room and you're not feeling so good, you might shift the room in a negative way. So,
Well, if you
yeah,
walk into a room with a crystal skull in it, and all of a sudden some ideas and thoughts and words are popping into your head, you're going to be like, whoa, hold on a minute. That's powerful shit, man. And if there's no marks on it and no indication that it's been molded or put together or created, you're asking, well, how the hell did that get here?
yeah,
Who put that there? Where did that come from? Who made it? And how did they make it?
yeah. And what can we use it for good, really? The King's Chamber in the pyramids, if you go in there, they say you can hallucinate or get visions as well. Just being in nature, I've noticed if you go to a group of trees in the forest and it's a big group of similar like trees, if you go in the middle, kind of find your spot, you can raise your vibration easier as well. Um, so there's lots of different ways.
Yeah,
But Chris,
again, the crystals help, but the magic is within you, right?
yeah, the crystals are just like an amplifier. The magic is within you. So the the crystals from Atlantis were actually a lot smaller, made out of different materials than the ones we have today. And hopefully, hopefully we can find those one day. I mean, it makes sense if crystals can store energy, so or information. So what your computer is made out of, it's made out of metal and silicone, and it's operating and storing all this information on
Glass. Yeah.
right on metal. So why can't we put information into crystals as well? Fun fact, every watch that's analytical with a tick has a quartz crystal in it to
Hmm.
time it properly.
Yeah. I got a piece of, I think they called it Libyan desert glass. It's a kind of it's a golden colored tektite. And your man was selling it. It was like €1 for 2 grams. No, it was €2 a gram. So I literally paid €100 for this small little piece of Libyan desert glass or gold tektite. And it's entirely inert. I've meditated with it, I've slept with it, I've held it, nothing happening. But that's not to say that something in the future might not happen, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I mentioned, I think in this 26,000 year cycle that in some way on Earth or we were more tr maybe it's from this dimension, or maybe the dimension shifted a little bit, but we used to be more light energy, emotional, and spiritual bodies and very little physical. Now we're more physical and less of those other ones. So it's harder to feel our energy centers or chakras. A lot of us can though now, so that we're expanding our minds. But yeah, I've had a lot of crystal healers and sound healers and Reiki healers and all kinds of things that they said it was very effective when our bodies were much more um, like loose. Now we're more physical. It's sometimes harder. Where think of your body, your physical body as a delayed copy of your physical, um, delayed copy of your energy body. So whatever you're feeling, the physical body is like a delayed copy of that, basically.
Yeah, one of my guests was telling me he was in Africa and they were doing like not a safari, but they were in the jungle or in the forest and they were traveling around in a group. And the guide said, now we just have to wait here for a minute. And they said, well, what are we waiting for? And he's like, you're waiting for your soul to catch up, as in your physical self is here, but the rest of you's not quite here yet. And of course, English probably didn't do justice as a language to the concept that he was trying to explain to them. But in the tribes of the people that live entirely outdoors, this is second nature, right?
Hmm.
These
That's
days
kind
we wear shoes, we live in houses, we're very disconnected from nature, even if we spend more time in it than maybe, you know. I'm fortunate here in that I'm living and working remotely from a field in Tipperary, surrounded by trees and fields and cows and crows, you know. But I could still spend a lot more time in nature, you know.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And wait for your soul to catch up is what they said,
Right. Yeah. So this
right?
idea that you have like your physical body, your astral body, your magnetic body, your aura, and then your psychic body, and then your soul. So you consist and comprise of multiple bodies, not all of whom travel at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, lots of layers. And that's why when we do meditation or hypnosis, it's good to come out of it slowly because we're still kind of coming back and then, regaining our senses and breathing and blood circulation.
Cool. So before we finish up with the 1 minute quick fire round, how can people find out about you if they're interested in booking in with you to do a past life regression session?
Journeysintopastlives.com. Journeys into past lives underscore in between each letter where a space would be for my Instagram and
Yeah.
social media. So journeys into past lives. And that's my Instagram is where most people find me.
So you're based in Michigan, but you can obviously work with people all over the world through Zoom and what have you. And you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, and you're on journeysintopastlives.com.
Yeah. And yeah, I do this virtually with people from all over the world. And I find that, I like in-person sessions, but there's pros and cons to each. So a lot of virtual sessions work even better because people are most comfortable at their home environment where they can get super relaxed, no commute, no traffic, no waiting in an office. And, just pick a time where they have a limited distractions for 2 hours and we can do a nice relaxation. I send them a guided recording of my voice, an audio recording to practice with beforehand,
Hmm.
and I record the session and I send them the recording after. So, yeah, if you're looking for this type of work, I'm really open to questions and helping people on their journey. So,
Yeah,
message me, reach out, or schedule a free call or a
cool.
session.
So all that remains for me to do is thank you for your time today. Thanks for being the June guest on the MenScape podcast. We'll zip into a 1 minute quick fire round. England or Germany?
England,
Sunset or sunrise?
sunset,
Blonde or brunette?
blonde,
Manchester or Liverpool?
Manchester,
Brown or pink?
Pink.
Spots or stripes?
Stripes.
Kerry or Dublin?
Dublin.
Gardening or gym?
Mm, gardening.
Boccherini or Echo and the Bunnymen?
Bookerimi.
Sun or moon?
Sun.
Emerald or ruby?
Emerald.
Sun or moon? Oh, I did
Sun.
that one already. Sorry. Silver or gold?
Gold.
Beer or wine?
Wine.
Meat or cheese?
Meat.
Onions or carrots?
Onions. Are you
Salt
just
or
making
pepper?
these up now? Are they
Yeah,
actually are?
yeah. They're all makey uppy. Salt or pepper?
Salt.
And finally, forest or beach?
Beach.
There you go. That wasn't too bad, was it? Thanks
What'd I
again.
get? What'd I get? 50%? What's
Thanks
my grade?
again. Yeah, you
Yeah.
won. You won a prize. Let's find out what it is.
Yeah, no, thanks again for having me on the show. You know, if you're coming here from one of my followers, he has a lot of great spiritual people on his podcast. Go check out some of his episodes. And yeah, he's also a writing coach for people who want to write books as well. So really glad and hope you guys enjoyed the content today.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you.